Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Superman and Lois. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, it's interesting finding out that John has a sister that we weren't aware of. Obviously, I don't know if she died on his Earth, because losing Lois and Natalie is already bad enough, but I don't know whatever happened with his sister, but he is running into this Earth's version of his sister, so that, he can probably never go back home because the world he came from, it's in shambles, plus his Lois and his daughter's not there, so kind of won't be the point to go back. So having some family here on this Earth probably means the world to him, but obviously this coincides with him getting a call from Lois, I think Superman's been turned. Which we find out, how that's happening. It is kind of what I thought they were trying to do. I was wondering whether they were just going to, straight up, brainwash him, or whether it was going to be implanting another consciousness on top. I just wasn't sure if that could necessarily happen for a Kryptonian, but it's they just implant him with a different one, and the one they're trying to implant on him is Zod, and I'm like, that immediately makes your brain go okay, so does that mean that Clark, in this continuity, has never crossed paths with Zod, because Zod never got him and a few other Kryptonians never got put into the Phantom Zone in this continuity, which, depending on if they're keeping with Supergirl's continuity, that is true. The Kryptonians, the whole Fort Ross thing, we know they were in the Phantom Zone, but it could have been Zod was ahead of time. So who knows? Because all this, it could be because they also did that a little bit Smallville, because remember, Lex got possessed by Zod's consciousness, and then later on Zod literally pops up later in the show. I think season 8 is when he popped up. I know that might have been season 8, or was that season, I think that was season 9, because season 8 was Doomsday. Season 8 was Zod, I believe. But I thought that, the fact of it being Zod is really interesting, because it's the bad blood between them, once again, depending on what this continuity is, because them being related is only, to my knowledge, that's only a Krypton, the TV show thing, but I don't know if any other continuities made it so that they're family. So, but it's just they're mortal enemies, and for him to be taking over Superman's body it's just interesting. But like I said, I think it adds to the I don't think he's ever crossed paths with Zod. I think it's just which this could potentially set up they I'm jumping around. They're saying Zod's gone, but it's there might be more to that later. Because all this left of Krypton are the consciousnesses that were there. You also know because of the continuity and everything, we know. But that's also the thing too of once again, it's how much continuity they've changed based on this show. Because if I remember correctly, post-Crisis, Argo City is supposed to be here on Earth. It's not just in space anymore. It's on Earth. I could be wrong. So, and once again, that conversation doesn't come up. So maybe that's just how much of that is just continuity. They're just keeping vague as possible because they haven't decided what they want to keep and what they want to take away. I don't know. Because there's other conversations later on that make me go they would have. Diggle, which that was kind of interesting, pops up and he referenced because obviously there's the whole conversation really quickly about how do we handle the Superman thing. Lois is all about Superman's going to fight, he's going to pull through this. Sam has his doubts. John has his biggest doubts of no, it's not going to work the way you think it is. Obviously, I've seen what Superman can do. It's he wiped out Metropolis in 7 minutes, and it's millions of lives. He killed my Lois. My daughter. I lost. I lost there was so much of my world lost because of him. I'm not going to take the chance. It's my duty. You're saying that Superman gave you the go ahead to call me. It's because he knows I'm gonna get it done. He knows I'm going to be the one that would do it, no hesitation. That I will be the one to be able to do it. So, But because like no one else has faith like Lois, but even Lois is kind of shaken and scared. Like I'm not even shaken, but she is scared because for the boy, she's putting up a strong front of like, nah, your dad's been through this. He's been in worse spots than this. He'll be back. Like I've had to deal with this for 20 years. Your dad's gonna be fine. But when she's in front of her, Sam, she breaks down because like even she doesn't know how this plays out. She hopes for the best, but she also has to prepare for the worst. And which that's a complicated thing of like, well, what do? Like. The suggestion is we have to kill Superman, but it's like, no, you can't kill one of Earth's mightiest heroes. Yes, that's Marvel saying that specifically, but it's like, no, like even in his continuity, I mean, he's considered like one of the universe's, not just Earth's, like one of the universe's greatest heroes. So it's like you can't take off like one of Earth's heavy hitters off the board. You can't do that. But it's the thing of like, right, if he's not one of our heavy hitters for justice, he's one of our heavy hitters of like destruction and death. So obviously Diggle gets brought in because Sam got in contact with Argus about getting the materials necessary because John Iron Henry wants to like no, it's Henry Irons wants to make a red solar missile, which he did on his Earth, but he shot it at Superman on his world on his Earth, but while in space, but he got transported to this Earth before he could see if it worked or not. So that does beg the question, like, what did happen on that Earth? Like in that moment, like that Superman like loses powers, come crashing down to Earth and die. It's unclear, so that was the thing of like going into this too. It's like, right, we don't know if it worked on your Earth, but Sam is that's what Sam says, but John's like, you know what, it will work. But Diggle was kind of upset when he found out, like, wait, this is all about killing Superman. He's like, no, you can't do that. It's like, I fought alongside the guy. He's like, Oliver wouldn't agree with this. The others wouldn't have as well, which almost, like, that's why it's weird. Like, I'm sure it's just, like, he's talking in the sense of, like, if anyone else was here to make that choice, none of the other heroes, none of the other members of the Justice League. Once again, like, anytime I have an opportunity to remind us, yes, the Justice League exists in its continuity. It's still crazy to me. It's just the sad thing is we don't get to do much with it. Just because, like, until, like, the next major crossover, that's not going to come up when it's like, oh, we need to get the Justice League because it's going to be another universal thing. And even if it is a universal thing, like, who knows, like, how far down the road, like, what it's going to take. It's going to be, like, a big send-off to everything as a whole, as an Arrowverse as a whole, before it even ever comes to that or whatever. Regardless. Tangents and all that aside, but Diggle saying that, like, like they would never, like, my thought, the reason why I was bringing it up is because I thought like he was almost implying like the others are dead, and I'm like, I don't think that's the case. Like I said, I think it's just like the way he phrased it made me feel like, wait, you're kind of implying like the other heroes aren't I guess they're not really around, they're kind of dealing with their own thing. Something else that crossed my mind about the Diggle thing, I think this is before he pops up in The Flash. I think continuity-wise, it's his appearance in Batwoman, Superman and Lois, and then him in The Flash. I think The Flash is like the last chapter of like whether like this like small like continuation of his arc, or kind of epiloguing his arc as just like part of Arrow in the Arrowverse and setting him up to be a Green Lantern. Because he was saying, like, I'm done with all these other worlds, losing loved ones, glowing boxes. So I'm assuming that's, like, right. Because in The Flash, he set up his... I mean, to be fair, this could be first. It could be this, then Batwoman, and then The Flash. The Flash is definitely the last chapter. Like, the fact is, the headache thing never came up, and this means, like, that probably hasn't struck yet. So this might take place before Batwoman and The Flash continuity-wise. If you lining things up, because in The Flash he's all about like, no, I have to go off, like I have a calling to me, and I've ignored it for so long, so that's why, like I said, plus no headaches at all means it hasn't really struck him yet. So, but obviously you have so many conversations because you have like Jonathan and Jordan trying to, like, it's like, for Jordan, he feels powerless. It's like, I'm literally the only powered person in our family. It should have been me that was able to do anything, but I couldn't. Like, Morgan Edge, I hit him with everything I got, and it wasn't enough, and he left with Dad, and that's on me. Because Jordan saying like, nah, Jonathan saying, Jordan, use your hearing to try and find Dad. You did it before. He's like, yeah, but that was like beforehand, but now it's like, okay, just focus more, like you can do it, like you'll be able to find Dad, you just have to listen for him, like I trust that you can do this. Obviously, Lana and her family dealing with the ramifications of Kyle wanting things to get back to normal, but there's not so much normal when he's getting blamed for anything. Yes, he pushed forward the Morgan Edge thing, but to be fair, like, was anyone, like, that's the thing of, like, when we had those conversations, the only person that ever really pushed back was Lois. No one else in town, like, everyone else was, like, quick and happy to be like, you know what, Kyle, you're right. Like, we never saw any pushback from the town being like, I don't know about this. It's like, no, the town was all about it. Like, it wasn't just Kyle that got seduced by, like, Morgan Edge's, like, silver tongue. It's like, everyone else did too, So it's kind of sad that Kyle, not just Kyle, his entire family, like, Emily's blaming Lana, which I'm like, Lana's the one that kind of gave her the job and everything, but, like, because the sad thing is, obviously, Lana knew ahead of time of what was going on, but she didn't know what was going on. And it's like, no one did. So, like, they shouldn't get blamed for, like, who can really prepare for, like, oh, yeah, like, Morgan Edge, he's not just some evil businessman. He's actually an evil businessman who's secretly a Kryptonian that's, like, planting, trying to give people powers and take control of their minds, secretly implanting Kryptonians inside them, because a lot of those details are being hush-hushed by the DOD. So, like, So that's a whole thing within itself. But it's like, you kind of feel bad, And Lois is trying to say, like, despite everything, like, you guys aren't to blame, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows it. And she's trying to get as much information from Kyle and Lana about what it was like being possessed so that, it can give her an idea of what Clark's going through. And from Lana can't remember much, but for Kyle, he does. It's specifically the fading in and out. Like, basically, he's kind of like drowning in his darkness, where it's like, he's like, basically the darkness kind of eats away at him, making him feel like, to the point like, right, my family would be better off without me, so just let go. And for him, it's like, I almost did let go, but luckily he didn't, and he was able to be saved. So it gives Lois more hope, like, right, I know what Clark is going through, like, we can reach him, we just have to try. And so Lois trying she tries to talk to her dad, but her dad's like, I gotta do this, I gotta, treat Clark, the only reason why he's getting treated any differently is because he's my son-in-law, he's your husband, he's the father of my grandchildren. But it's like, no, he's still a threat, a large threat to this planet. So he has to be, if it wasn't, I knew him, like, I'd have to treat him like any other threat anyway. So I have to do this. So Lois takes it upon herself to tell John Henry the truth of, like, yeah, Clark Kent is Superman. And once again, he's got the reaction. Clark Kent is Superman? What? Yeah, it's like, that's why I've always had so much faith in him and believe in his faith in, the humanity he has, because, he's the father, I love him, he's the love of my life, he's my everything, he's the father of my children, Superman's my husband, But even for John, that wasn't enough to change his mind, because he's like you said, I won't hesitate. I will do what's necessary. I will get it done. And the fact is that this is what needs to be done. Like, I lost my family, and what, it's like, yeah, I get it, you and your kids, but what about the other, wives and children that were killed because of Superman for my world? I can't let that happen again. But John's like, despite, the courage it took, to survive, he's like, I don't know what you've been through. I just hope that for the sake of this world, me and the world is hoping that you make the right call with all this. Which also, side note, I love that John was like, oh yeah, like all this other like superhero stuff, other worlds and everything. It's like, yeah, especially when it's like, wait, you're from another world. It's like, right, you haven't had to deal with anyone from another world since you realize, like, okay, the multiverse is technically going at this point in time because everything's collapsed on one Earth, so we ain't got to worry about doppelgangers. Like, shit, what? You're a damn it! Doppelgangers, I thought I was done with this. It's like walking away from that life, but it's like, even when you try to walk away from it, they keep dragging you back in. What the hell did I make a reference to that in something else? Oh yeah, I was talking about Leverage Redemption. I was like, yeah, I literally referenced that in a review, and I couldn't remember what it was, but it was that. Interestingly enough, I think John was like already swaying a little bit, but I think talking to Jonathan really shifted things for him, because it's like, no, like, I saw, about your Earth, and what, like, my dad did to you, and, like, what happened to my mom and your daughter Natalie. He's like, you were a pretty good dad, and I just want you to know, the man that you're going to go kill, he's a really good dad too. I just needed you to know that, because despite everything, Clark is still fighting. He managed to get away long enough to call out to Jordan, and Jordan heard him. And it's like, right, I'm in the Badlands. But despite everything, like, Clark ended up losing his fight, and Zod took control. So it's like, right, we got to get this done. Got the machinery ready, got the missile ready and everything. And John Irons is, he's suited up, and he's ready, and he ends up going toe-to-toe with Clark. He doesn't fight back because they need to find out whether or not Clark's still in there, but it seems like, nah, he's not in there anymore, so he's been turned. And so, but this partway through the fight, Clark still revealing himself, and he's just like, John, do it. You got to do it. You got to save them. And in that moment, really, like, hearing all, I think in that moment, it's like, he's thinking about what Lois said. He's thinking about what Diggle said. He's thinking about what Jonathan said. Like, the fact is, like, right. And he, in that moment, says, like, all right, remember what you're fighting for. Your wife sent me here. Lois sent me here to help you. So fight. Remember what you're fighting for. They believe in you, and you can't give up fighting, Hold on to them. Because he's like, I know what it's like to lose, like, the people you care about. And that's, like, essentially that's a despair you can't climb out of easily. So, fight for their sake so you don't lose them. So they don't lose you. And Clark's remembering all of them. He's remembering Lois, Jordan, and Jonathan, and he breaks Zod's control of them, and just, I guess, like, basically burned away. His subconscious fought back and eroded his. So, the way they're saying it's like, nah, Zod's gone. Maybe, who knows? Because I think it's not like a copy of a consciousness that possesses your body. It's that person's conscious. So that might be them kind of, like I said, killing off Zod, but like this might be like an homage a little to like Smallville, like I brought up earlier. They did kind of a similar thing, so maybe that's what that's supposed to be. But I love in that moment, it's like, right, Superman's back and he's okay, and it's like, all right, let's go take, you and I, John, let's go take care of Morgan Edge. And it's like, yo, the two men of steel going toe-to-toe with him. And so he ends up grabbing the Eradicator because his dad's like, right, this is all your fault because your moment of weakness led you wanting to try and save, like, get your brother on your side. It's like, that weakness is why you're here. So do what you're meant to do. Grabs the Eradicator. Doesn't even let the wall open completely before he grabs it, busts through it, takes off. They're chasing after him into space. And John fires a missile, but not before Morgan, like, heat visions the Eradicator. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? I'm like, because, like, the whole point of it is, like, it's only going to work on people from Smallville. So I'm like, what are you trying to do? And I guess maybe the explosion from that muffled, kind of softened the blow from maybe the red solar missile, because in that moment he crashes down on Earth, but I feel like that impact should have killed him, but I guess enough of his Kryptonian, like, energy was still there, so he survives the fall without completely dying. But he's like, oh yeah, like, you could have fought by my side, but, like, oh, you'll be buried underneath, like, the ashes of this planet. And Clark just, like, knocks him out. So I was like, yeah! So they won the day. But really quickly, what I'm thinking is what we got at the end was, I think Morgan absorbed all of them. Because I was about to say, like, where the hell all those Kryptonian consciousnesses go? So, like, he's got, like, I guess that was the mission, to put them all in one being or something. I don't know. Because at the end we see his, like, eyes glow, and I'm like, what does that do? Like, is that supposed to make you, like, is it supposed to be kind of almost like a Super Skrull type of thing? Yes, I'm crossing the beams between Marvel and DC, but I'm like, is that what that's supposed to be like? Is he supposed to be like a super Kryptonian? Did he just go like super Kryptonian god level or something like that? I don't know. Like, not unless it was a one particular, I was about to say, I'm like, for a second there I was about to say, like, well, it's all these Kryptonian consciousness. I was like, not unless we find out, like, I was like, could it be like a Brainiac thing? I was like, no, I don't think so. Because once again, it also depends on the continuity of like, because like some continuity, Brainiac was a computer on Krypton. Other times he's not. He's just, I would assume they're going with like just a straight up Kaluan thing of like, because Brainy 5 and everything, that is like, right, he's a like, kind of like Krypton. He comes from another world. He's a world collector type of thing. So, but I was like, was it something else? Because, like, there is the whispering, so, like, every Kryptonian consciousness and the entire consciousness of that planet, like, what, 95% of its inhabitants are inside of his head, but, like, what does that do? Like, I don't know what that means. I mean, because we've seen what, like, implanting a Kryptonian consciousness into one person does. It gives him powers. Like I said, I assume he's, like I said, super Kryptonian god level or something now. Like, he's on a whole other level. I mean, granted, the Kryptonite's able to hold him back, but when you have that much power flowing through you, it might be a thing of, nah, I'm a flex and I'm a break out of here. So we'll see how things kind of play out. So you get happy notes on certain regards because, like, oh, there's a happy note of, like, the family's reunited after everything. And, obviously, even John being like, yeah, it's, we're meeting under better circumstances, but, it's like, right, I would join you guys, but obviously you guys deserve this time together as a family, Plus, I think he's got to deal with his own family thing. I think for him, it's like, right, I was able to help stop things, but also, like, I didn't have to destroy Superman. I didn't have to destroy this family because he didn't want that family to have the heartache and pain that he's going through, So everything worked out in that regard. Even Sam apologizing, like, Lois is like, I get it, you were just doing your job. But he's like, no, what I was going to say is, I'm proud of you. You're the one person that still had faith despite everything. And it's because of that I'm proud of you. And Clark, I didn't believe, but I will never, like, doubt you again. So them spending time together as a family, but also, like, Kyle and, Sophie and Sarah and Lana, because, like, it's like he is upset because it's like, right, like, me trying to do my best. It's not like I had into ill intention. I tried to do my best for this town, and this is what I get. Them spray painting on my house saying, get out of Smallville, breaking glass. Like, this is, like, luckily no one was home, sure, but this is our home, and they attacked our home for me trying to do the right thing for all of them, for all of us, because we all needed it. Once again, it's not like Kyle was, like, the outlier in this. Everyone else was kind of like, oh, cool, they're all about it. Once again, they're lashing out because they need someone to be angry at, but to go that far is super messed up, because he was a victim of all of this, too, and, like, it's like they're not realizing any of that, But, you had the moment of them, Lana being like, no, we're going to get through this together as a family, And you see them kind of, like, laughing and playing, and I think things are heading in a better direction for them as a whole, like, especially at the end when, like, they're cooking. But Kyle says that thing that I think is kind of ominous, where it's like, no, I'm going to handle this myself. Like, I'm like, are you going to try and kill Morgan Edge? Like, you're going to go for him when he's in a weakened state and kind of inadvertently release him, and he's going to wreak havoc because of you, like... Because I think the guilt from both himself as well as the way the town is treating him and his family, like, I think that's what he means. He's going to probably take it in his own hands. We'll see, but this does set up a lot of interesting things to see kind of how... Because we still have 3 episodes left, if I'm not mistaken. I believe I could be wrong, but I believe it's 15 episodes this season, so we got 3 episodes for... see how this all plays out. But, like, for now everything's resolved, but obviously, like, not really. But it's going to be like, okay, so finding out what having all those consciousnesses means for him. Like, apparently this was, like, the ultimate plan. Like, why that was the ultimate plan, I have no idea. Like I said, what Kyle is up to, Clark dealing with the aftermath of all that. Like, will there be any, like, I mean... That was the whole point of, like, people in town getting checked up on, because it's like, right, what's the aftermath of, having another, like, alien consciousness inside of you and stuff like that. It's like, what kind of effect will that have on Clark? Right, let's not also forget, like, the crystal that had Jor-El was destroyed last episode, so he's gone, so Clark doesn't really even have him for guidance anymore, like, not unless there's something they deal with that, not unless there's some answer to that going forward, but, we'll have to wait and see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.